This presentation is on the koshas, the sheaths of the body, an experience of integration. In his book Light on Life, Kosas Iyengar writes, when these bodies or sheaths are misaligned or clash with one another, we inevitably encounter the alienation and fragmentation that so trouble our world. When, on the other hand, we're able to bring the various sheaths of our body into alignment and harmony with one another, the fragmentation disappears, integration is achieved, and unity is established. He goes on, the physical body, the Annamaya kosha, must connect and thereby imprint upon the energetic and organic body, Pranamaya kosha, which must in turn accord with the mental body, Manomaya kosha, the mental body with the intellectual body, Vijnanamaya kosha, and the intellectual body with the blissful body, Anandamaya kosha. Likewise, if there is no communication between the blissful body and the physical body, then the blissful body cannot bring its illumination to the motion and action of the physical body, and there is darkness in life and not light in life. In this slide, we represent a series of circles. The outer body, Annamaya kosha, is called the physical sheath. Inside this, a second circle, Pranamaya, the physiological sheath, including breathing and heart rate. Manomaya kosha, referred to as the mental and emotional sheath, thoughts and emotions. And inside this sits Vijnanamaya kosha, the intellectual sheath, our capacity to observe and differentiate. And at the center sits Anandamaya kosha, Ananda meaning blissful, the body of bliss, the divine sheath. This view of a human being, not just a physical body, but each of these layers interconnected. In the previous slide, Iyengar talked of an experience of fragmentation that so trouble our world. In the Yoga Sutras, Patanjali names these two elements, the kleshas, made up of avidya, asmita, raga, dvesa, and abhinivesa, and the Vrttis, pramana, viparyaya, vikalpa, smriti, and nidra. The kleshas are called the afflictions, whilst the Vrttis are the movements or modifications in the consciousness. What a practice of yoga seeks to do is not straighten, improve alignment and performance, but is to minimize the kleshas and to address the Vrttis. How yoga addresses the kleshas and the Vrttis is through what is referred to as experiential knowledge. We can study things, we can know things with the intellect, but experiential knowledge comes through a practice. And here I quote Iyengar again. He says, knowledge has two facets. One is objective and the other is subjective. Objective knowledge is based upon speculation, thinking, and analysis, whereas subjective knowledge is to verify the objective knowledge with experience. Subjective knowledge comes through practical experience, and objective knowledge is earned through theoretical study. Yoga is both a practical as well as a theoretical subject, but it is neither blind practice nor discursive one. He goes on to say, any practice needs some objective knowledge. One puts this objective knowledge to the acquired knowledge into practice, so that one experiences the reality of the objective knowledge. This experienced knowledge again leads towards the act of rethinking, reanalyzing, and reprocessing to set oneself for a new avenue of knowledge. Due to this renewal of knowledge, practice takes a new shape, leading each objective knowledge into subjective experience, and at the same time, that subjective experience guides one to express accurately the objective knowledge. This cycle of knowledge from the objective to the subjective and from the subjective to the objective produces a certain reaction in one and develops a memory tasting like a ripe fruit. This quote was taken from Astadala Yoga Mala, Volume 1, from the article Yoga Freedom Through Discipline, page 103. If we practice asana for the sake of emancipation, then it's called yogasana. If we perform it for the sake of pleasure, then it's bhogasana. Therefore, a sukhasana has to be necessarily a yogasana and not a bhogasana. However, it is easier to convert the sukhasana into bhogasana than it is into yogasana. In that case, the downfall of the practitioner is certain. In this quote taken from Astadala Yoga Mala, Volume 2, page 76, in the article Asana Jaya, Search for the Infinite. In the following quote, Iyengar writes on the intelligence when working with the body. Your intelligence should have an intimacy with your body. It should be in close contact and know it well. When there is no intimacy between your mind and your body, there is duality, there is separation, and there is no integration. When you experience pain, you come in close contact with the part that is painful, so that you can adjust it and lessen the pain and feel the lightness. Pain is a great philosopher because it thinks constantly on how to get rid of itself and demands discipline. The other side of the equation of pain is the understanding of how pain brings focus of attention on the affected area. If we release the tension of the brain, that attention shows the way to lessen and later eradicate the source of pain. In this way, pain can be a great teacher, which educates us how to live with it and eventually to say goodbye. And this quote was from Light on Life, page 49. The term yogasana. Once the body is positioned in the asana, create a condition within the embodiment, which is the next step and the most vital, as it is this internal conditioning which makes an asana a yogasana. Here the sadhaka learns to unite one part of the body with another, the body with the mind, the body with the breath and the senses also, the breath with the mind and the senses. And this takes one into the inward journey, which makes the practice of yoga a svadhyaya, a self-study. It is this unification which justifies the definition of the word yog, which means to unite. Merely doing an asana by the body, through the body, and for the body is not yoga. Yogasanas are to be done by the body, but for the mind, for the psyche, for the consciousness, and for the culturing and refinement of a human being. This quote was by Prashant Iyengar. In this slide, we have a circle divided into three. And if our purpose through practice is an experience of integration, but integration of what? The koshas, these layers or sheaths, are a path into ourselves. And this image on the right-hand side of the slide is a representation of Citta, or consciousness. In yoga, it's said that our consciousness is made up of manas, or mind, amkara, I-ness, and buddhi, intelligence. The way I mostly represent Citta is that at any moment or any point I can stand in my busyness. My mind can become active and agitated. I can also stand in I-ness, and the I-ness within me dominates both what I notice and what I experience. The term buddhi refers to intelligence, that ability to stand back and see clearly. What we do through a practice is we direct the busy mind. We come into ourselves, and we learn through the practice of the specifics of the asana. Through the observation of details, we direct the busy mind. And as we work with our bodies, we seek to develop a non-reactive state, a state where we can both observe without the need to tense or push. And over time, we learn to practice differentiating objects. Am I heavier on my right side or my left? When you can work out and differentiate the body, left from right, you can also differentiate sensations in the body from tensions. You can differentiate sensations from thoughts and emotions. And that gradual practice of differentiation leads you to begin to differentiate the citta into these three aspects. Just as we can refine an asana and direct our attention to observe specific points, can we also learn to differentiate the citta? We can go on then to look at citta and its states. The citta can be dull or oscillating. It can be partially stable, one-pointed, or integrated. And once we observe and differentiate the citta, we can begin to explore the Vrttis and the Kleases, these movements or modifications in the consciousness, and the afflictions. And through this practice of integration, we begin to go inwards. In this slide, coming from Iyengar's Light on Yoga Sutras, referred to as Table 9, it describes the evolution and involution of Prakriti. If we follow from the very top of the slide, Purusya and Prakriti, we begin to evolve. We as human beings come from nature, but we evolve into individuals. And if we follow this pathway down, we come to the very end. At the very bottom left, there is a circle, the Kamandriyas. You and I are individuals, whether male or female, whether old or young. We have arms, legs. We eat and digest. And we also have urges. And it's through this process, through this evolutionary process, as it's described, that we become an individual. And it's through the very same process that we can involute. And so in this example, we start with the Kamandriyas. In Iyengar Yoga, we teach the detail of asanas. We learn how to control the limbs, how to focus, and how to go inwards. And then the second circle. When you start working with the kamandriyas effectively in asana, then we add the jnanandriyas, the senses of perception, and mind, manas. And these two groups plus mind, 5 kamandriyas, 5 jnanandriyas, and mind, are referred to as the 11 senses. As we progress further, we start to differentiate the citta, made up of manas, buddhi, and amkara, and we start to explore, as noted in the previous slides, we start to explore or examine the Vrttis and the Klease. And this takes us on an inward path. We trace ourselves back to the source, the path of evolution and the path of involution. These are described as a pathway of integration, of becoming whole and complete. Iyengar's approach was to use the body to study the citta, to experience integration within one's life and oneself.